Okay, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday to you. This is kind of a weird time. This is a first for me, a first Zoom news conference. We've had plenty of Zoom calls, certainly in the last few weeks, but this is a first for me. I appreciate everyone's understanding and why we decided to go in this route to have make this announcement that we're going to announce today in this manner, but we think it's the right thing to do. Last week, I asked Amy Canterbury of the United Way of Southwest Indiana, Pat Creech of the Wellborn Baptist Foundation, Bill Bussing, Bob Jones, to develop a strategy to assist the many nonprofit organizations in our region that we know are facing serious financial and volunteer staffing stress because of the pandemic. I will tell you that they have done an amazing job in a very short amount of time. The initial priority of the COVID-19 Crisis Response Fund of the Greater Evansville Region is to address the pressing needs of those organizations that provide support in the space of human services. These organizations do regular work. I mean, day in and day out, they're doing heavy lifting to support the most vulnerable in our region. This crisis is making their work even more challenging. I'm really pleased that this is to announce that this is a real regional effort, a 5-county effort. Posey, Gibson, Vanderburgh, Warwick, and Spencer County organizations will all benefit from the formation of this fund. And I'm really pleased that my colleagues, Mount Vernon Mayor Bill Curtis, Princeton Mayor Greg Wright, Boonville Mayor Charlie Wyatt, Newburgh Town Manager Christy Powell, all supportive of this, and appreciate the effort that so many people are making to support our nonprofits in our region. So what's going to happen next? Pat Creech from the Wellborn Baptist Foundation will talk. He'll walk through the mechanics of how the fund is established, how it will work. Amy Canterbury will talk about the need in the region, and Bob Jones will talk about how much money we've raised to date. And after that, we'll open it up to questions, and we ask for your indulgence. Having never done this, we hope it will go well. So with that, I'll hand it over to my friend Pat Creech. Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Crisis Response Fund was initiated by members of the Southern Indiana Grantmakers in a collaborative effort to focus an impactful and effective response to the COVID-19 crisis in our broader community. This same group of foundations have kickstarted the fund financially as first-in funders. Specifically, I'd like to recognize them. United Way of Southwest Indiana, Community Foundation Alliance, Cook Foundation, Old National Bank, Vectren, CenterPoint Energy Company, Toyota, the City of Evansville Endowment Fund, Mattingly Charities, United Way of Posey County, and the Wellborn Baptist Foundation. United Way has also agreed to support this fund as the fiscal sponsor of the fund. We also have a handful of other private family foundations and individual donors that are already on board to support this initiative. In response to the COVID-19 crisis, the funding partners established this cross-sector community-wide response fund for the Greater Evansville Region. Again, I want to re-mention the counties, primarily Gibson, Posey, Spencer, Vanderburgh, and Warwick. This response is designed to serve the community through the relief, recovery, and restoration phases typical of large-scale crises. The current priorities in the relief phase of this initiative are to ensure responsiveness in the human services sector, such that individuals and families in need are supported during this crisis, especially the vulnerable and at-risk populations. Specifically, the fund will seek to advance tactics that provide gap support not duplicated by federal programs to those who are asset limited, income constrained, and may be temporarily unemployed. This focus group is commonly referred to as the Alice community, and Amy will talk about that community more in just a moment. Secondly, the fund aims to sustain critical operations and levels of service that meet the basic needs, for example, food, shelter, and childcare, of the vulnerable and at risk. Thirdly, The fund aims to support temporary staffing and volunteer mobilization efforts in response to loss of the volunteer base critical to the essential social services in our community. And lastly, we are hopeful that this fund will encourage and champion a movement of neighbors caring for neighbors. These specifically mentioned current purposes are focused on the short-term relief phase. The criteria for the recovery and restoration phases of the crisis or of the response will be determined as the needs and opportunities emerge in the coming months. As the fiscal sponsor, the United Way of Southwest Indiana will accept donations free of administrative costs and work in conjunction with the fund committee to seek donations in the weeks ahead. We want to assure you that any unused funds will be used to establish a community crisis response fund for future needs. I'd like to mention that fund advisory and allocation committees have been formed with members from broad-reaching representation across the community. We've got representatives from the for-profit community, nonprofit community, government, and nonprofit communities. These committees, the Advisory Committee and Allocations Committee, will make timely and informed grant-making decisions, and we expect that there will be multiple rounds of investment based on the evolving needs over time. Organizations receiving grants from this fund will be required to report on the use of the monies granted. A little bit about the expected timeline. We hope to have application links live on the United Way website beginning next Friday, April the 3rd. We expect that our allocations committee will convene its work no later than April 17th, pending receipt of the committed funds. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you all for joining the call. You know, this is something that is really unfounded before, I believe, in the community. Generally, we are looking towards a relief effort where we've had a crisis of a storm, a tornado, a flood, or something, and we immediately move into relief. And at this point, we're still preparing for relief. And what we have done is we've really taken and worked with our ALICE report that Pat mentioned, which is across many states, and we do have information across our 5 counties related to that ALICE population. And when we say that, what is that? That are the folks that are struggling working families that may be holding down 2 jobs. They lose a paycheck or a job, and we're seeing that happen right now. They're making decisions about food or prescription. They're making decisions about really hard life choices that so many of us don't have to do. And we look at those numbers, and it's just really overwhelming. There are 30,000 households that fit that description in Vanderburgh, Warwick, Spencer, Posey, and Gibson counties. 30,000. So just to think about what that might be during this time of uncertainty, when there may not be, when folks are not able to work right now, and what this does. That's why we're asking for your help and concern and understanding of just where this is. We're hearing about it. We're seeing some issues right out of the gate. We've talked about this a lot with the Southern Indiana grant makers and this group about right now, folks are sheltering in place as best we can, and perhaps they're not out of food yet. And many folks in this situation and in poverty have not thought about what happens April 1 when their rent payments due. They're thinking about what's in front of them right now. And right now, maybe I don't know if I can work because I don't know where my kids are what I can do with my children because the daycare is closed. And we've got nonprofits that are suffering through this same effort. How can they continue to serve, and do they need to serve more, or how do they scale up? And that's what this fund does. So I thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Bob Jones, who is our fundraiser for the community, and I appreciate your help today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Amy, and thank you for your leadership. As the mayor and Pat and Amy have pointed out, the needs of our community are significant in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even with the passage of the estimated $2.2 trillion relief package, we know for a fact that many in our region will still struggle to meet those basic needs of life that Amy pointed out: a place to live and food on the table. To begin to meet those needs and many more, and in response to the mayor's call to action to establish this fund, our region has raised over $1.4 million in less than 1 week. This is a great reflection on the caring and giving nature of our community. But we all know that the need is much more, and we will need to continue to raise dollars until all of our needs are met. We estimate today that the regional needs to be around $6 million based on our research. That's $6 million today. But I should caution all of us, no one knows the depth or the magnitude of this crisis. It's unlike any one we've ever seen. And our region's needs may get larger, and we will continue to raise money until all those needs are met. You know, this is a wonderful and giving community, and we have great confidence that we'll be able to respond to our community's needs. So we are asking the region to please help us help those trying to meet those basic needs of life we've discussed by giving today. A variety of ways you can do so. You can go on the United Way website, unitedwayswi.org, and click on the COVID-19. There'll be instructions there on how to donate either through credit card, check, or other ways. Old National Bank and Heritage Federal are also accepting cash and checks. If you write a check, please note that it is for the COVID-19 fund. And very soon we will launch a website, covidresponsefund.com, that you can go on and contribute. And quite frankly, I'm sure that any one of us on the team will be glad to drive to your house to pick up a check if necessary. As I said earlier, this is a tremendous caring community. And you think about $6 million, it's a big number, but I know that we have the heart and the soul to make sure that we meet the needs of those that are desperately trying to meet those basic needs of life. I'm extraordinarily proud to be part of this community, and extraordinarily proud now to turn the call back to our mayor, Lloyd Winnecke.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Pat. A little over a week ago, we started talking about what this might look like, and we set an internal goal of this small group to be able to kick off this fund with $1 million in commitments. And to sit here today and say we have $1.4 million raised is, it really speaks to the heart, the character, and the empathy that our corporate community, our foundation community, our faith community, all of us have in Evansville. I couldn't be more proud to serve in this role, especially at this moment in time. With that, we'll be happy to open up to the news media for questions. And again, since we've never done this, we urge you to be patient. We'll try to work through the technology of this.
So what I'd like to do is open it up to the chat box first. And if you will see the chat box at the bottom, if you would raise your hand or tell me that you would like to ask a question, I will unmute. As we're waiting to see if we do have questions from media or others, I will add to a comment around the Heritage Federal Credit Union and Old National Bank branches, something I failed to tell Bob exactly, but that begins Monday. So as part of the media, I'd like for you to ask that, or to state that those that information is available Monday to walk into the branches so that they have time to prepare their branches on how to take those donations.
You know, while we're waiting for media questions, I see Charlie Wyatt on the screen, Mayor of Boonville. Again, want to stress the regional nature in this. Charlie, would you like to make a comment about what this might mean to organizations in Boonville and Warwick County? There you go.
Am I unmuted now? Okay.
You're unmuted.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm honored to be part of this great group and to be part of the this overall project. City of Boonville, I know that we've got a lot of faith-based organizations that do a lot of feeding the needy in our city today. And a couple have sprung up here in the last week or two. And I know that we've got non-for-profits. And again, they're feeding people and they're going to need some help. And I'm tickled to death that this is going to be an opportunity for them to maybe to be able to do what they're doing now, as well as even more in the future. And like I said, I am tickled to death. Anything I can do other than being a cheerleader here. And Lloyd, I did want to ask you though a question. My hair length and your hair length, I know. So I didn't. When you get to my length, let me know. With that, I'll be quiet. But again, I truly am thankful for being part of this group.
Thank you, Charlie. We do have a couple questions, both related to the $6 million number. So Bob or Amy, you can jump in on this. This is from Steve Berger. Can we get a clarification on the $6 million number? Is that the total number you expected to need throughout the crisis?
Yeah, a great question from both Steve and from John. That's our best estimate today, and it's really based on the research that Deal Consulting has done on what we call that ALICE population. If you look at their total needs and where the gaps are, we've been able to extrapolate a number that today we estimate $6 million. But I got to be honest with you, that is an estimate at best based on where we are today, and this crisis is moving by the moment. And that number may get bigger. I wish it would get smaller, but at this stage, I just don't see how it can. And again, it's really important to understand that $6 million is just to meet the basic needs that these folks have. And that is even after you think about the stimulus or the relief package coming in, whether it's the $1,200 or some of the other issues, we still estimate that need to be $6 million. And that if anybody wants some of the basics of that deal research, we can certainly get that to you.
Still holding for questions. Not what I expected.
We'll be patient here. We'll let give people a chance to type in their questions. Steve, thank you. Just so
we have a question from John Martin. Could Pat repeat the dates he mentioned on when some of these wheels will start turning?
So we're working hard to have the link for nonprofit organizations to apply live by next Friday, April the 3rd. And we're hopeful that the allocations committee, which will be the group that is reviewing grants and making sure that the requests align with the purposes intended for this fund during the relief phase. We're hopeful that they can begin their work no later than April 17th. That date, however, is pending on the receipt of funds to actually service the needs that are requested. So April 3rd, April 17th.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Next, how long is the application review process expected to take? I think that was covered there, but I would say that we also don't expect only one round. We expect this to go on for what could be as much as our guesstimate at this point is up to 18 months, which moving through the relief, recovery, and restoration.
I might just add to that, Amy, that we're trying to design the systems that assure both accountability and effective use of the funds for quick turnaround. So we hope to turn around the requests very quickly, but also very prudently.
Very good point.
Why don't we give it another minute or two and then call it a news conference here. Okay, that was a minute. Seems like a long time, doesn't it? Thank you so much. Appreciate the media accommodating us in this fashion. Appreciate the great work of Amy and Pat and Bill and Bob and others who've worked behind the scenes to prop this up in a short time. And again, to think that we're at $1.4 million today. I mean, I can't stress enough how proud I am. This makes me of the effort and the heart of our community. So thank you to all who have gotten us to the $1.4 million mark. Thank you to all the folks that I know will get us close to 6 million, if not exceeding that. And again, we could not be more grateful for your support as we try all we can do to lift up all among us. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend and stay healthy.
Mr. Mayor, we have a hand raise. Greg Donaldson. Greg, you're unmuted. No, you're
Can you
not.
hear me?
There we go.
All right, thank you. Just as a quick question, if I go to United Way online right this minute, is there a clear delineation as to where the contribution should be made?
Yes, on the COVID-19 tab,
Right.
there is. And
All right.
if you would like even a commitment form separately, we are happy to do that. We really are, this is the primary purpose of what we're doing right now. Again, this is not really a United Way quote fund. We are the fiscal sponsor. So this is a community fund that is meant to support this 5-county radius, and it is outside of our normal course of business. We were just, we offered to sponsor this in a
Right.
light, okay?
Appreciate you doing that. That's so this is tri-state.
It's 5 counties.
5 counties.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. Mhm. Okay. So with that, I just want to make sure. Okay. There will also be updates on a Facebook page. It's Facebook COVID Response Fund GER. So you can follow that as well. It's COVID Response Fund GER, which is Greater Evansville Region. Coming soon. And then, so follow that. Appreciate that, Jeff. That's Jeff who's helping us from Welborn Baptist Foundation and setting up our marketing and communications plan. Okay. We shall end the call. Thank you all.